Hi, welcome back to 345 Delta Foxtrot. My name is David Ferguson. Okay, this video is part 2 of the How to Build Advanced Fuel Tank series of videos, and this one is about everything that you need. And as before, all the slides are numbered, and there's a list of topics here, so if you want to jump ahead, fast forward, you can. So you've ordered your wing kit, you've bought every tool that Cleveland Aircraft Tool has to sell. Are you ready to build your fuel tank? No, you're not. There's a lot of stuff that you're going to need, and that's what this video is about. And if you don't get it on order at the beginning or earlier, it's going to take you forever. You're going to find stuff that's on back order, stuff that's not available, and even if Vans has it in stock, it typically takes them 3 weeks to ship something to me, and if it's not in stock, it can take months. So you need to plan in advance on something like this. Okay, the first topic is any extended fuel range tank stuff. I covered this in my previous video, and I'm not going to go back over it in detail again. Supposedly, Sky Designs sells a kit for doing extended range fuel tanks for an RV10. You go to their website, and I couldn't find anything. So you're kind of on your own. I'm not planning on doing it, so I haven't researched it in detail, and it's basically going to be up to you. Okay, the second topic is fuel sender stuff. And this is assuming that you're going to be using the stock Stuart Warner float type fuel senders. And if not, or if you're unsure, you need to go back and watch my previous video where I talk about some of the alternatives. Okay, the standard fuel sensor is shown here. It's made by Stuart Warner. Now, if you order it on Aircraft Spruce, it's listed on their website as an ISS fuel level sender. And there's a company called ISS Pro, and I assume that's what they're talking about. But if you order one of these, that's not what you get. What you get is a Stuart Warner. And if you try and order these on from Vans, they're a couple dollars more expensive, but that's no big deal. The problem is they're on back order, and I don't know exactly how long they've been on back order, but I think it's at least a month and probably closer to 2. So this is why you need to start planning in advance and getting everything on order early. So if you're going to just do the inboard fuel sensors, which is the normal way of doing things, you probably have ordered those with your wing kit. But if you're going to do the outboard fuel senders, you need to order 2 more, 1 for each tank, and get those on order. Part of installing the fuel senders is bending the wire it's a float type sensor, and there's a wire that connects the actual variable resistor, the potentiometer, to the float, and you need to bend that to the correct shape so that it goes all the way to the top of the tank and all the way to the bottom of the tank. The float does. Now you can just take a pair of pliers and start bending, or you can try take a bench vise and try and use that with a pair of pliers or a hammer or whatever you want. But Temu sells these wire rod bending tools, and they're pretty inexpensive from Temu. They're less than $5. You may have to search their website a little bit and hunt around to find one that's less than $5, but probably all of them are going to be less than $6 or $7. And you can also find these on Amazon. And the first several that I saw on Amazon, they were up in the $20 range, but I did finally find one that was down around $10. So even from Amazon, they're not too expensive. And when I ordered this, I thought I was going to have to modify it for. It looks like it's kind of designed for somewhat larger rod or wire, and I thought I was going to have to move things a little closer together so that it would work well. But when it arrived, I put it together. I screwed it to a 2x4. I took a steel coat hanger and bent it, and everything seemed to work just fine, as is. You do have to put it together a little bit. You have to pound these steel rods into the steel and into the larger steel rods, and you have to take the two bearings, and they provide the screws and the washers, and it just takes a couple of minutes to put it together. And the steel rods, the small ones that you're actually bending the wire around, the diameter is 7 millimeters, which is a little over 1/4 of an inch. So that means when you bend something, the radius of curvature is a little over 1/8 of an inch. And that seems just about right to me. It seems pretty good. I thought everything came out pretty well. So for $5, I would recommend them. Even for $10 from Amazon. The only problem is this tool is not really generally useful. It's useful in this one particular application, but it would also be useful if you're building the toolbox practice kit. It has a wire handle. You could use it to bend that. But I doubt that you're going to find a lot of uses for this. It's probably going to be a one-time type thing. So it's kind of up to you, but it did seem to work pretty well. Okay, if you're adding additional fuel senders, you're going to need to drill a 1.5 inch hole. And the first thing that might come to your mind is to just use a step drill bit. And you can buy step drill bits. They go up to over 2 inches, 2.25 or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But I could not find a step drill bit that would drill a 1.5 inch hole. They go from 1 3/8 inch to 1 5/8 inch. And you could make that work. Wouldn't be too hard, probably. Another thing that you could do is Dremel sells a circle cutter. It's called a Dremel 678. and it's supposed to be able to make holes as small as 3/4 of an inch, and it just has a screw adjustment, so you can change the size of the hole to anything you want. So presumably that would work for a 1.5-inch hole, although I haven't tried it. And what I did is I bought this 1.5-inch carbide hole saw, and it's supposed to be able to drill holes in stainless steel plate. So drilling a hole in aluminum, no problem. And you're going to need some additional nut plates, just like you did for the end board side. You're going to need 5 nut plates for each additional fuel sender. And those are pretty inexpensive. You just need to get them on order. One thing about the Vans kits is if you need 27 nut plates to build a plane, they give you 27 nut plates. They don't give you extras. So if you want extras, you need to order them. And in this particular case, you're going to need at least 10. And of course, you need some additional screws to screw it in. And you're going to need 10 of these number 8 screws. You can, of course, buy nut plates and screws. You don't have to buy them from Vans. You can get them from Aircraft Spruce and probably other people. What I showed here just happened to be from Vans. Okay, the next topic is return fuel line stuff. And this is for some fuel-injected engine systems, fuel systems. They require a return line back to the tank, or tanks, plural, one for each tank. Actually, I don't know if that's true. Maybe you could do a return line to just one tank. I guess I haven't actually done this, and I'm not planning on using a fuel injection engine that requires this. See my previous video. If you're doing the stock build, it appears that even if you're using a fuel injection Lycoming engine, that the fuel pump that Vans recommends and sells does not require a return line. However, I think I am going to add the flanges just in case I ever want it in the future. That's one thing about the fuel tank is once it's sealed up, you don't want to have to ever put holes in it or open it up again for any reason. So okay, so these are the flanges for the fuel lines. And the normal one for an RV10 is the trimmed flange. And they also sell the untrimmed flange. And they're both about the same price. They're about $40 a piece. You need one for each tank. And I believe when I ordered these, I believe one of them was on back order. I believe the trimmed one was on back order, and so I ordered the untrimmed ones. I don't think it really matters too much which one you get, but this is just another case of when you want something, it may be on back order. So, you need to plan in advance. And for those flanges, you're going to need to drill a 3/4 inch hole, and a step drill bit will do that. And hopefully you already have probably several of these for different sizes. And I use the ones from Harbor Freight because they're cheap, and I haven't had any trouble drilling aluminum. So this one is just $6 from Harbor Freight. And if you're adding these flanges, for just in case, for future proofing, and you're not going to actually hook up lines to them, you're going to want to plug them up. So, and also when you do your leak checking, you may want some other plugs. You got to plug everything up so that your tank doesn't leak. So you can buy these brass NPT plugs. They're not too expensive. You get 10 of them for like $8. And they come in 1/8 inch NPT, 1/4 inch NPT, and 3/8 inch NPT. So order whatever you need. Okay, now you're going to need some fuel tank sealant. And again, I'm assuming that you're using the standard Flamemaster CS3204 fuel tank sealant. There are alternatives like ProSeal, which is made by PPG and is different. Watch my previous video if you want to know what the alternatives are, and more. And if you want to know more about the Flamemaster sealant, the CS3204. Okay, in my previous video, I recommend that you get a tank of the B2 stuff and a tank or a quart can of the A2 stuff. And I got mine from SkyGeek, and they seem to be the cheapest, and they seem to be a reasonable supplier. That would be my recommendation, unless you just happen to be ordering from Aircraft Spruce or something, and you want to just combine it with that order. But Aircraft Spruce was significantly more expensive. I think they were up in the $170, $175 range for a quart. So what's shown here is the 3204 B2 stuff. It comes in both black and gray, and what's shown here is gray. I don't think it matters. I don't know why anybody would care. It's inside your fuel tank, nobody will ever see it. And this is the A2 stuff. So the B2 has a consistency of peanut butter, and the A2 has a consistency of honey. And I kind of recommend that you get a quart of each. Again, you can get this from SkyGeek. It's slightly more expensive, but not much. $120 a quart. Okay, you're going to need some sort of mixing cup, and it's pretty easy just to go down to Walmart and get a little plastic cup, a party cup. The only problem with those is they're stamped, and the bottom of the cup is typically not nice and smooth and flat. To give it a little extra strength, they put a ridge around the rim in the bottom of the cup. And so, of course, some of the Part A fuel tank sealant gets down in that ridge, and then it's hard to mix it with the part B. It's not too bad. I mean, you can certainly do it, and you just have to be a little bit careful. However, I found these cups at IKEA. They're nice, sturdy cups. They have a nice smooth bottom, no ridges, and they're not too expensive. The only disadvantage is there's not an IKEA on every corner. I live in the Los Angeles area, and even for me, I had to drive like 50 miles to get to an IKEA. So they certainly, sell stuff mail order, but I don't know what their shipping costs are if you were to try and order these mail order. But there are plenty of alternatives, and if you can, like I said, try and find one with a nice smooth bottom. Okay, you're going to want a nice sturdy spoon for the part A of the fuel tank sealant, and that's the light colored stuff. That's the bulk of the fuel tank sealant, is part A. And you're going to be dipping it out in about 30-gram quantities. So you want a reasonable sized spoon, and you want a reasonably sturdy spoon. You can make just a little plastic spoon, like a picnic type spoon. You can be careful with that and make it work, but I would recommend getting a little bit sturdier spoon. And I would also recommend, or I would not recommend anything that you normally use in your kitchen. You can clean it up, and conceivably, I guess you could put it back in the kitchen and use it again, but I wouldn't really recommend that. You can buy these 4 spoons set for $1.50 at Walmart, and so that's only 39 cents a piece. And that's more than adequate. Okay, for stirring and mixing, or stirring and actually applying the sealant, to the ribs and whatever else, I find that popsicle sticks work great. I like them a lot. So you can get 50 popsicle sticks from Walmart for $1.25, and that's only 2.5 cents a piece. So they're dirt cheap. You can clip the end if you want a flat end. You can just clip the end with a pair of side cutters or wire cutters. You could also clip the end at an angle if you wanted, wanted it flat but at an angle. Okay, we just talked about using popsicle sticks to apply the fuel tank sealant, and that works just fine for the ribs. However, there are times when it would be nice to be able to basically dispense from a syringe. And you could do it all the time if you wanted to. You can do it on the ribs as well, on the flanges of the ribs. But like I said, the popsicle sticks work fine for the flanges of the ribs. Now, for the smaller jobs, you might want these 20 milliliter syringes, and The density of CS3204 is 1.59 grams per cubic centimeter. So the syringe holds 20 cubic centimeters, so 20 times 1.59 is 32 grams. And that's about what you need. You need about 30 grams in order to do a rib. But I think you would be hard-pressed to actually get 30 grams in the syringe and basically fill it full. I mean, you can certainly do it. It's certainly possible. But it would be a little bit of a pain, probably. But these syringes are not all that expensive, and I would get some just in case I want to use them for the smaller things, you know, places where you don't need 30 grams. So if you want to use syringes for the flanges of the ribs, the next size up after 20 milliliters is 60 milliliters. At least I didn't see any in between. You would think they would make some 40s or something like that, but they don't appear to. So I would definitely recommend that you get some of these especially if you're intending to use syringes, for the flanges of the ribs. They're $1 a piece, or a little less, but they are reusable. And if you order a pack of 10, you probably won't need to reuse them. But you certainly shouldn't need more than 10. Just let the sealant fully cure, and then you can just pop it out and clean off the inside of the syringe and use it again. And one 60 milliliter syringe can hold 95 grams, which is easily enough for 2 ribs. I would say 2 ribs, fine, no problem. 3, I think, would be pushing your luck. And I would personally just mix up some more sealant if I wanted to do more than 2 ribs. Just plan on doing it in 2 batches. Okay, I found that using a drill press vise was pretty handy for supporting the rib when you're putting the fuel tank sealant on the edges of the flanges. If you have a helper, you could probably get them to hold it for you. And there's many different kinds of vices and clamps or whatever. So this is just one way to do it, and it worked out okay for me. So I don't really recommend that you necessarily do it this way, but I do recommend that you find some way to clamp the rib in place while you're applying the sealant. And also, you probably want a way to hold the syringe vertically or clamp it vertically when you're trying to fill the syringe. Okay, before you apply the sealant, you're supposed to scuff basically everything, the skins, the inside of the fuel tank skins, wherever you're going to be applying sealant. Scuffing does improve the adhesion of the sealant to the aluminum. And you should scuff anything, that the sealant is going to touch, anything where you want it to adhere. So that means the flanges of the ribs, you got to scuff those. Wherever you're going to be adding, the fuel line flanges, the vent line flange, things like that. You want to scuff all those areas. And the easy, obvious way to do it is just take a pad of red Scotch-Brite and do it by hand. However, you can get these scuffing balls, and they used to sell them at Harbor Freight, but they don't. So I got them when they were on sale at Harbor Freight. They were on closeout, plus I had a 30% off coupon. So I got them very inexpensively. But you can get them on Temu. You can get two for $4, so they're $2 a piece. And you can get either the red ones or the green ones. And I don't know that Temu follows the normal color code, but I believe that the normal color code is the green is 180 grit and red is 320 grit. And when Harbor Freight was selling them, they also had gray, which is 800 grit. And you can also find these on Amazon. The trouble on Amazon is you have to buy them in packs of 9. And it's not 9 of the exact same size, shape, and color. So you probably end up having to buy a bunch that you don't really want. Okay, one thing that I always do before I prime is I clean everything with Super Clean, and that improves the adhesion of the primer a lot. And I believe that it also improves the adhesion of the fuel tank sealant to the aluminum. And Super Clean actually etches aluminum, so you want to be a little bit careful here. What I do is I dilute it down 4-to-1, 4 parts water to 1 part Super Clean. So 1 gallon of Super Clean, which is only $10, would be enough to make 5 gallons diluted down, way more than you need. Well, unless you're using it before you prime. And then I try and apply it to the aluminum for approximately 3 minutes. What I recommend that you do is you get a piece of scrap aluminum and you mix up the Super Clean in a little beaker, little jar or cup or something, and you put a piece of scrap aluminum in so that it's half submerged and half above. Leave it for 10 minutes. Take it out, dry it off, and you should see it when it's in the Super Clean. It should start to bubble, and it's clearly attacking the aluminum. And like I said, leave it in for 10 minutes, take it out, and make your own judgment as to whether or not you think it's attacking the aluminum too much. If so, you can dilute it down more or try and go for a shorter time. But I find that it does help improve the adhesion, and it's fairly easy to use. And I haven't actually tried to measure it with a micrometer or something, but while it is etching the aluminum, I don't think it's etching the aluminum all that much. You can clearly see that the surface of the aluminum goes from being hydrophobic to being hydrophilic. So you should definitely notice that right away, that it's changing the wetting of the water to the aluminum. And So using it for, these one-time things, like before you use the apply the fuel tank sealant, or before you spray the primer, I don't see that as being a problem. I don't think it's etching enough aluminum for that to be a problem. However, I do not recommend that you use this on a regular basis on your plane. That might be a problem if you were using it, like weekly or monthly or something. Okay, you need a way to weigh out the fuel tank sealant. You're going to be mixing it 10 to 1, 10 parts of part A to 1 part of part B by weight. And if you're mixing up a fairly small batch, say 20 grams, you're only going to be weighing out 2 grams of part B. And if your scale only goes to the nearest tenth of a gram, then that's a tenth of a gram would be 5%. So you probably want to buy a scale that goes to a hundredth of a gram. And then when you're weighing out the part B, it'll be less than 1%. A hundredth of a gram, the minimum increment on the scale will be, less than 1% of what you're weighing out. And one of these scales is not too expensive. They're less than $10 on Amazon. And I believe that the plane lady in one of her videos recommended putting it in a plastic bag in order to keep the fuel tank sealant from getting all over it and messing it up. However, I didn't have a problem with that. The problem I had was I spilled acetone on it and messed it up that way. And acetone attacks plastic, and so it wouldn't have really helped if I'd had it in a plastic bag. It would have dissolved the plastic bag as well. But that is one suggestion. You're going to want some kind of timer. You can just use any kitchen timer. When you mix up the sealant, it has a pot life of about 2 hours. So you're going to want to start a timer, and or I suppose you could just look at your watch or look at a clock and write the time down. But yeah, I just use kitchen timers like this. You're going to want good light when you're doing all this. And if your shop has very good light, you're probably set. If not, you might want to consider some sort of semi-disposable flashlight. Again, you could just take your good flashlight and put it in a plastic bag or something. But when they're on sale, you can get these puck lights at Harbor Freight for $1 a piece. And so I just went and bought 2 or 3 of them on sale. And even when they're not on sale, they're not all that expensive. And they are somewhat handy. Okay. You're going to want some sort of an inspection mirror. You could use a borescope, but those are way more expensive than a $3 or $4 inspection mirror. But once you've got your fuel tank pretty much together. There's going to be places where it's going to be hard to really see and inspect without a mirror. So, and this is a generally useful type tool. You should just have one of these. They're just not that expensive. You're going to want a fairly large supply of gloves whenever you're handling the fuel tank sealant, the CS3204. These particular gloves are 7 mil thick from Harbor Freight, and they're $14 for a box of 50 is the normal price, but they go on sale all the time. And the sale price is somewhere around about half, somewhere around $7 a box. And Harbor Freight sells 3 different thicknesses. They sell 5 mil, 7 mil, and 9 mil. And, I suppose they sell the much thicker ones, reusable type gloves as well, but I don't think you want those. I found that the 7 mil work pretty well because they're thin enough that you can pick up a single rivet. So you have reasonable dexterity with these gloves. If you're using the right size, make sure that they're tight fitting enough that you can pick up a single rivet. And they're thick enough that you can wash off a little fuel tank sealant with some acetone. And so if you're using the 5 mil gloves, you're probably going to end up, whenever you get some sealant on your gloves, you're going to end up taking them off and throwing them away and putting on another pair, or double gloving or whatever. But if you just get a little bit of sealant on your glove and you're prompt about it, just take a little acetone and clean it off and keep going. And that's a lot less time consuming and a lot more convenient than changing your gloves. So I found that worked pretty well. Okay, you're definitely going to want some acetone. I recommend getting a whole gallon at Home Depot. Home Depot is the cheapest place that I found. If you know of a cheaper place, leave a comment. So it's about $21 a gallon at Home Depot, and it works really well at cleaning up the CS3204 fuel tank sealant, so long as the sealant has not had enough time to fully cure. So, if you're making a real mess inside your tank and you've got fuel tank sealant all over the place, like me, and you get it on your gloves, you get it, then your gloves get it on the other places in the tank, and you get it on your tools. And fortunately, you can just clean it all off with acetone. And I was afraid that I was going to need something more potent like MEK or something, but acetone works great. And acetone is definitely a chemical, and you should be careful with it, just like any chemical. But it's not incredibly toxic. So the one thing that you should be careful about with acetone, or not only, but is it's flammable, and it has a very low vapor pressure. So be very careful about using it around any flames or anything like that. And also, as I mentioned before, it does dissolve plastic. So, okay, so because acetone dissolves plastic, you may want to buy one of these. I think it's polyethylene acetone bottles. They're not too expensive. They're $8 on Amazon, and I have one. It works fine, works great, and I think it's worth it for acetone. Um, I don't think I'd spend $8 for a water bottle, but for acetone, I think it's worth it. And um, you can get some chemical bottles um, where the nozzle um, curves around and back down toward the bottom of the bottle. Those are not good, especially for acetone, because it'll start a siphon, and you can't. I mean, you can make a bottle like that work. You just can't fill it all the way up. You can only fill it like half full, or it'll start a siphon and just dump all your acetone out on the floor. So yeah, a bottle like this works well. They also sell an isopropyl bottle. I think it's identical to this except for the label. Um, but isopropyl doesn't dissolve plastic like acetone does. So I think I just use an old Windex bottle or something for isopropyl. Okay, cotton swabs are dirt cheap. You can get 500 at Walmart for a little over $2. So they're less than a half a penny a piece. So um, I found that they're fairly useful for cleaning up the fuel tank sealant. There's places um, where you want it to come up close to an edge or something, but not go over the edge. So you can just squirt a little acetone on a cotton swab and use that to clean off the sealant um, uh, to right where you want it. And of course, this whole fuel tank sealant process is very messy. So you're going to want a lot of paper towels. Um, I don't really recommend cloth rags. If you get fuel tank sealant on cloth, I don't think it's going to come out. So uh, you're going to want to make sure that it's disposable. You can get these in addition to just normal paper towels, which I definitely recommend you have probably 2 rolls handy when you're working with fuel tank sealant. You might want some of these thicker paper rags. Um, the thicker ones are pretty handy, like when you're using some acetone to clean off some sealant off your gloves. You can just squirt some on one of these paper rags and some acetone on a paper rag and clean off your glove. And also, you can certainly use them for cleaning up the inside of your fuel tank if you've made a mess. And I recommend that you have at least 2 trash cans, um, and one big one and one small one, probably. Um, I'm sure that you have already have some sort of trash can in your shop. And one thing that you can do is you can get these 5-gallon buckets at Harbor Freight, and they often have it. You can get one free with any purchase. So I have several 5-gallon Harbor Freight buckets, and you can just put a trash can liner in one of those and use that as a small trash can, or a box. You could just use a cardboard box and put a plastic liner in it. But you're going to want, like I said, it's a very messy process. You want to be able to just wipe something up, take off your gloves, whatever, throw them away, and make sure you use plastic trash can liners. And at the end of the day, you can just seal it up and throw it away, get rid of all your trash. And I also recommend that you cover everything with paper. Cover your workbench. If you're using a workbench and a table, cover them both with paper. You can decide for yourself on the floor. If you just have a concrete floor and you get some fuel tank sealant on it, you could probably just clean it up with acetone. But cover anything that might get fuel tank sealant on it with paper. And be careful about getting the fuel tank sealant on your tools. You can use acetone to clean off most of your tools without any problem, but you don't want to make a bigger mess than you really have to. And also make sure that you're wearing old clothes. Like I said, if the sealant gets on cloth, I don't think it's going to come out. So wear old clothes. Be careful about your shoes. Harbor Freight sells some shoe covers that are fairly inexpensive if you want to wear a shoe cover. Okay, next topic is fittings and stuff that you need for fuel tank fittings. So one of the first things that you need is some sort of sealant. Actually, that's not totally clear. NPT fittings and also flare fittings both seal pretty well dry. And so, using additional sealant like Loctite or Permatex or something might be to some extent a matter of personal preference. But anyway, you look at Chapter 5 of the directions of the plans for your RV, and it 5.27 talks about pipe thread fittings and NPT fittings, and Van's recommendation is to use either Tight Seal Permatex number 2 or Loctite 565. And for fuel related fittings. If you look at the instructions for the RV14, which is section 18, page 8, they recommend that you use either fuse lube or Loctite. They don't specify which type of Loctite to use. So this is our list of recommendations from Vans is Tight Seal, Permatex number 2, Loctite 565, or Fuel Lube. So as far as I can tell, Tight Seal doesn't exist anymore. There is this stuff called Neil Seal, and if you look at their website or data sheet, it says Neil Seal was formerly known as Tight Seal. So I don't know the history. I don't know if one company bought out another or what, but anyway, if you want to try and buy this stuff, you probably want to try and buy the Neil Seal. And it comes in at least 2 different thicknesses. And I believe that you want the lightweight stuff, which is N20-66. And if you look at their data sheet, everything looks pretty good. Seals gaskets and joints, prevents corrosion, lubricates stuff, seals threaded pipe joints, flare nuts, withstands extreme temperatures, although they don't say what they mean by extreme temperature. And it has some resistance to various liquids. So it seems okay. The trouble is they're not very specific about things, about what liquids and what temperatures and things like that. Okay, Permatex number 2. I assume they're referring to Permatex Forma gasket number 2. And that's not really a thread sealant. It's a gasket type sealant. Probably works. It is resistant to gasoline and oil and grease. But I would be a little bit leery about using it just as a thread sealant. Basically, I think that there's better options. If you want to stay with the Permatex brand, Permatex does have several, probably like 6 or 8 different thread sealants. And one of them is this Permatex Seal and Lock. And I thought it was kind of interesting because it is a thread sealant, and it also has the thread locking capability of blue thread locker. So it's kind of like a 2-in-1 type thing. And, it works on aluminum. It's supposedly resistant to oil. It's good for fuel line fittings. And you can buy it on Amazon. It's not too expensive. It's $15 for a 35 milliliter tube. So I would probably be more likely to use the Permatex Seal and Lock than the Permatex number 2 for something like the fuel tank. trying to seal threads and not form some sort of gasket. Um, but okay, so Loctite 565 seems pretty good. It is a thread sealant, not a gasket type sealant. It as is listed in the data sheet as preventing loosening and leakage from vibration, which I think is a nice feature. It's good up to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. It has good resistance to gasoline, to E85 ethanol, is what they used in their data sheet. They tested it for 1,000 hours, and it was actually stronger after 1,000 hours than it was at the beginning. It was, so there's another commonly used Loctite, which is 567, and that's actually recommended in the maintenance manual for the RV12. And they recommend using Loctite 567. And 567 has a little bit higher temperature range or whatever than 565. The 565 is only good to 300 Fahrenheit, whereas the 567 is good to 400 Fahrenheit. However, I don't think your fuel tank is going to be anywhere near that temperature, and if it is, it's probably likely to explode. The gasoline resistance is not quite as good, so it has better temperature capability, but it has not as good fuel resistance. After 1,000 hours, it was down to, the strength went down to 75% of the initial strength. So it's kind of a trade-off. You know, you want the better, higher temperature capability, or you want the better fuel resistance. Personally, I think that 300 degrees Fahrenheit should be more than enough. And so I would go with the Loctite 565. But I think a lot of people will use the 567 and are quite happy with it. And both are available on Amazon. They're both about the same price. So, okay, fuel lube. Actually, I believe that Vans actually recommended Fuse lube, F-U-S-E lube, and I could not find any references to Fuse lube. So I thought that maybe what they were talking, maybe it's just a typo. Maybe what they were actually talking about was fuel lube, and you do see people talking about using that. And again, I don't know the history, but this stuff called Easy Turn is the functional equivalent of fuel lube. So I don't know if fuel lube has always been Easy Turn, or if Easy Turn bought fuel lube or whatever. But Easy Turn seems to be what's available. You can get it on Aircraft Spruce. You can get it from Sky Geek. And I don't recall if you can get it on Amazon. And again, you know, it looks basically okay. Thread lubricant, use it for fuel lines, anti-seize kind of material, anti-corrosion. But again, they're not very specific about its actual capabilities. or at least what I found. Um, so it's probably just fine, but I don't have any experience with it. And I think that there's probably better alternatives. So my recommendation or my choice would be to use the Loctite 565. Um, it's recommended by Vans, not only Loctite, but Vans specifically mentioned 565. So it is a thread sealant as opposed to just a gasket type sealant. It has good fuel resistant capabilities. Already talked about that. It's good to 300 Fahrenheit. Be nice if that were a little higher, but I don't. Seems totally adequate to me. It prevents loosening from vibration, which I think is good. And it's reasonably priced. I mean, it's not dirt cheap, but you can get a 50 milliliter tube for $20 off of Amazon. And 50 milliliters is a pretty fair amount. So, okay, so more fitting stuff. So how are you going to tighten your fittings? The best way to do it is with a torque wrench. And if you're going to go and buy a torque wrench, they're not dirt cheap. They're not hugely expensive, but you want to get one, whoops, that is generally useful. You want to get one that, works for a range of applications. So Vans mentions torque specs in sections 5.14, 5.20, and 5.27. And the thing to be careful about is the low end. It's easy to buy a torque wrench, that's up around 100 inch-pounds, but a lot of these fittings are down in the 20, 30, 40, 50 inch-pound range. So you need a torque wrench that goes particularly low. And then, on the high end, you want your torque wrench to go as high as reasonably possible, but just looking at these tables on the right, if you could find something that went from 20 to 500 inch-pounds, that would be a perfectly reasonable range. And 20 to 500 inch-pounds is 1.7 to basically 42 foot-pounds. It's just different units. And it's 2.26 Newton meters to 56.5 Newton meters. So I looked around primarily on Amazon, and this is what I ended up getting. And all the specs on it seem okay. It has a 3/8 inch drive. It's good from 8 to 531 inch-pounds. Supposedly it has plus or minus 1% accuracy, and it had a reasonable price. It's about $60. So it looks good on paper. I can't say anything about its long-term durability, and I can't really verify the accuracy. I haven't made any attempt to verify how accurate it is. But it does seem basically okay. Okay, so for these pipe fittings that you're going to be wanting to tighten, uh, you cannot get a socket on a fitting that has a pipe running to it. There's no way to get the socket around it. So what you have to use is a crow's foot, and it turns out that you cannot buy a crow's foot with a quarter inch for a quarter inch torque wrench. The smallest they make is 3/8. So that means that you have to buy. You're going to want to buy a 3/8 inch drive torque wrench, not a quarter inch drive torque wrench, unless you can find a quarter inch crow's foot wrench set, but I don't think you're going to be able to. So you can just get a 3/8 inch crow's foot set at Harbor Freight for $15. They're not too expensive. And they sell them on Amazon, but I think the cheapest one on Amazon was significantly more. It's probably like in the $40 to $50 range. So if you're going to go to the trouble of actually using a torque wrench and torquing it to spec, you should definitely mark it. And there's at least a couple of different brands of this torque seal, torque check, cross check they call it, paint, compound, seal, whatever. And I think the cheap but probably less good way to do it is just to use women's fingernail polish, and but you use something to some sort of torque seal cross check type product. You're going to want some sort of tubing cutter. This particular one is off of Amazon, and it's $25. You can get just a tubing cutter for $6.50 at Harbor Freight. The only reason I picked this one is it comes with a deburring tool, and you probably already have a deburring tool, but I just wanted to mention that you're definitely going to want to deburr the ends of these tubes, especially if you're going to flare the end. So make sure that you have a way to clean up the end of the tube and that you use it. Okay, you're going to need some sort of flare tool, and for aircraft, the standard flare is 37 degrees, and for everything else, like your ice maker at home, just regular plumbing, probably automotive stuff, that's all 45-degree flares. So if you already have a flare tool, check and make sure that it's a 37-degree flare tool before you actually use it, or try and use it on your airplane. This particular one, it's good for both copper and aluminum tubing, and although it says not to use it for stainless steel, and it's good for 3/16, quarter inch, 5/16, and 3/8 inch tubing sizes. And it says it will do single, double, and bubble flares. And I've never done a double or a bubble flare, so I can't say anything about those. And even if your tool will do a double flare, is that the appropriate thing to be using on an airplane? I don't know the answer to that. It seems like it would be stronger, but I don't know how well it seals, how well a double flare seals compared to a single flare. If you have any experience in this area, feel free to leave a comment on this video. This is not the cheapest flare tool in the world, but it's not the most expensive either. I think you could probably get by with a cheaper flare tool, but the thing I liked about this one is it seems to do everything. It seems to do, both 37 and 45 degrees. It does single, double, and bubble flares. It does a range of tubing sizes. So hopefully this will be all I ever need and more. Okay, workbench. You need a place to build your fuel tanks. Now, normal workbench is, in my opinion, too high. It's probably 30 to 35, 36 inches high. For building the fuel tanks, I recommend something that's about 24 inches high. And I already had the sawhorses, and if you set them down to their lowest height, it's right around 24, 25 inches. I don't remember exactly. And so that's what I used, and it works well. And you do need adjustable height sawhorses. You can get just a cheap sawhorse for probably $10 or $15. But an adjustable height sawhorse is going to be up in the $50 to $60 range. The one shown here is from Harbor Freight, the one I have. It seems okay. So you just set the sawhorses to the minimum height, and you put a board on top that's basically 2 feet by 4 feet. And I used 5/8 inch particle board, and that worked fine. If you ever want to use that board for anything again, I recommend covering it with a piece of paper. And since it's, easy to do. Okay, once you get your tank built, you got to leak test it. So what do you need in order to do that? Vans sells a fuel tank test kit. It's fairly inexpensive. It's a little less than $14. It has a Schrader valve so that you can pump up your fuel tank with a bicycle pump. Or you could, anything that takes a Schrader fitting, you could use, your air compressor. But if you do, make sure you turn the pressure way, way, way down. And that's one of the reasons why, you basically use a balloon. If you overinflate your fuel tank, the balloon will pop long before you damage your fuel tank. So the test kit comes with a 1/4 inch NPT plug, only one, and it comes with this AN 929-6D flared fitting cap for a 3/8 inch tube, and it comes with a one-page sheet of instructions. So It's, you could buy this stuff separately or whatever, but this kit is not that expensive, so you should consider just buying the kit probably. You may want some additional plugs, so you can get these NPT plugs, fairly inexpensive, off of Amazon. They're brass plugs, and you can get 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, and 3/8 inch plugs. And so just buy whatever you need to plug up any of the holes. And you you can use a hand pump, or like I said, you can try just turning the pressure on your air compressor way down. Just be careful if you're using your air compressor. And if you already have a bicycle pump, you're set. If you can borrow one from your neighbor, I would definitely do that. But if you have to actually go out and buy one, you can get one for $23 on Amazon. And typically, you just put a balloon on one of the fittings, and you inflate the balloon, and you wait 24 hours or more, and you see if the balloon deflates. If it doesn't, your tank is good. It's sealed. If the balloon does deflate, you got to figure out why, where the hole is, where the leak is, what the problem is. One thing that I've noticed from watching YouTube videos is that the leak fairly often appears to be at the balloon. So after you put the balloon on and inflate the balloon, leak test right around the where the balloon is attaching, and make sure that that's not leaking. And I'm sure you can get balloons cheaper than this, but the reason I picked these balloons off of Amazon is they come in 3 different sizes: 12 inch, 18 inch, and 36 inch. So I don't know why you would want a 36-inch balloon, but you might want, a larger balloon. You might want an 18-inch, but 12-inch is probably adequate. And typically you use some sort of soapy water around all your fittings and anywhere you might have a leak, and you look for bubbles. And they actually sell, solution for doing this. This is made by Rector Seal, and you can buy an 8-ounce bottle for $8.56. You can buy just the stuff for kids, blow bubbles. You can go down to Walmart and you can get a 24-ounce bottle of bubble blowing solution for $1.68 at Walmart. But I think most people just mix it up at home. Just take some dishwashing soap and put it, in water in a spray bottle, and use that. Okay, so that's it for this video. And sorry that it was so long, but I tried to move reasonably quickly. So part one, the getting started video was 45 slides, and part 2, this video, was 61 slides. So we've been through 106 slides so far, and we haven't even started talking about actually building the tanks. So I hope you're finding these videos useful and reasonably comprehensive. That's one complaint I have about all the other videos is, people will talk about 5, 6, 7, 8 different tips, but their videos are just absolutely nowhere near comprehensive. And so you end up having to watch, 20 or 30 different videos to get, 15 tips on what to actually do. So feel free to comment on that if you find these videos too detailed, not detailed enough, if I'm going too fast or whatever. And the next video is going to be talking about actually building the tanks. If you like these videos, please subscribe, give them a thumbs up, leave a comment. If you subscribe and give them a thumbs up, that'll give me some motivation to, make part 3, make the next video about actually building the fuel tanks. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching.